Recently, we debated sharenting, the act of parents publishing every part of their kids' lives online. With the number of social media influencers making money off of those posts, Illinois is taking steps to compensate the kids. The state just passed a law requiring money to be put aside for those kids in trust. And if they don't, the child can sue their parents for the cash.
Hey, we're going to show you guys Poppy's favorite toys that are available on Amazon Prime on sale right now. And all these items are linked in my bio.
Your social media feeds are likely full of this kind of content. Parents posting about their kids' favorite things. Some of them are paid ads, while others are made-up skits meant to get clicks. If there is any money made from these videos, it usually flows to the content creator and not always to everyone in that creation. Well, that's about to change in Illinois for kids under the age of 16.
We just got the best back-to-school outfits from Pat Pat that Ren is so excited about.
Starting next year, child influencers will be entitled to a percentage of earnings based on how often they appear in the video blog or online content, which generates at least 10 cents per view. The kids would have to be featured in at least 30% of the total content in a month-long period. The idea for the law came from an Illinois teen who noticed an explosion in that type of content during the pandemic. Illinois is the first to make it law.
My 2-year-old daughter has been earning an income and adding money to her savings account since she was a newborn. Every time she appears in one of my ad campaigns on Instagram or any of my social channels, I pay her a percentage.
Some influencers are seemingly already following that type of formula. According to the Illinois law, the money must go into a trust account for the child to get at the age of 18. If the parent doesn't do this, the child could actually sue their parent. So every day we put these questions on our X page, formerly known as Twitter, and today we're asking you about this one. Does this law make sense? Well, 60.9% of you say yes, it does, and 39.1% of you say no, it doesn't. Let's bring back Giselle and Matt. Matt, we're going to start with you on this one. Do you think it makes sense, and is it really necessary?
All right, I'm going in a different direction. The obvious thing would be to say, of course it makes sense. You shouldn't exploit children, and if they're part of these ads, they deserve to be compensated. I totally get it, and I'm not in support of creepy dads like Britney Spears or Jessica Simpson, but I was thinking about it. Kids are expensive. I have friends with kids. I'm a professional uncle. These summer camps, dance camps, hockey, that's expensive. I've often been told having a child can be a painful and laborious experience as well. These parents should be compensated. All the driving around, the gas, the money that they spend, and feeding the children. So you know what? If the parents want to keep all the money, I'm okay with it.
All right, Giselle, what do you think?
Well, you're not entirely wrong, Matt. I don't entirely disagree. But when I read this article, my response back was, it's sad that we actually have to do this. I think good parents, you know, however they're using that money, would be using it for the betterment of their children.
Yeah.
If that's sending them to those expensive dance camps or, you know, all of the different things that children cost, and if that's contributing to the household income, I mean, that's what used to happen, right? Kids used to go out and work, and the money went to the household to provide for that. So it makes me sad that we actually have to have this kind of law, but I do understand it and I get it. And especially when we look back at the previous story we just talked about, and Michael Orr, you know, suing who he believed were his parents because they seemed to have profited off of him. In a very litigious culture, I think that we're going to have to create these rules and these guidelines. And the piece is that these children cannot opt in. Their parents are not just, you know, persuading them, but in many cases just doing this without their consent. They can't give consent, their children. But what happens when years later there could be ramifications of what has been posted already? So I see lots of different issues coming up. I also see issues with giving an 18-year-old what could be a very large sum of money. If their parents are successful at this, what happens? We hand over a big chunk of money, legally required to do so without any guidance. I can't imagine how that could go wrong either. So I think we've got some bigger problems to deal with, parenting styles and not really setting people up for success financially.
Yeah, Matt, and it's interesting because even one of those influencers in the video had said that they've been doing this since the child was a newborn.
Yeah.
So really, it seems like tapping into something here.
Well, yeah, I think that the majority, I'm not going to be cynical here. I'm going to assume the majority of parents, if they can find a way where using social media is an additional income and their children are part of it, I would imagine that money is going towards mortgage, rent, electricity. I would imagine most parents are doing the right thing and not, using the money for, I don't know, gin or whatever your favorite wine or spirit is. And the really creepy bad parents that are exploiting, that I don't know if these laws are going to be good enough to be able to catch them. The level of financial transparency required. If a parent is morally questionable enough to, not treat their children with respect, I don't know if this law is going to be able to curb them.
Let's take a look at the law just for a second here when you consider what Illinois is doing. Giselle, before we come to you, children under the age of 16, they're entitled to half of the video's earnings if they are on screen for at least 30% of it. Adult content creators must also set aside gross earnings for that child in a trust account, and the child can take legal action if that is not done by the parent. Now, you were talking about, once they hit 18 years old, how concerned are you, though, of this sort of, as you were talking about, this litigious sort of culture that they have in the United States, and how difficult that could be to actually try and execute and get that money?
Yeah, I think, again, there's just so many elements here to Matt's point around the fact that good parents are going to do that anyway, and parents that are just looking to profit off of their children. I don't remember the entire story, but what's his name, Macaulay Culkin, I think, from Home Alone. Wasn't there a big case about, the way in which his parents didn't provide for or stole money, right? There's all of these sort of stories that we see in the media around celebrities. I think it's really challenging to implement that. And if a parent's going to do it, then they're going to make sure that they're not in the video 30% of the time, right? They'll only be 25% of the time, and they'll argue that. I think we're going to see these cases come up. I think it's going to destroy families and relationships. I just think the whole thing causes a big mess. And I get it, right? The baby's really cute. She looks really great. The mother or the father is likely the one who's trying to get their career off the ground, and they found a way. I'll use my puppy anytime I can, and if I can promote some kind of product with that and I get paid. But we're now turning around saying that we're giving the power to children later on to come back and sue their parents. I think it's going to be very, very challenging to dissect that years and years later.
Matt, this may sound like a bit of a right turn on this, but do you think that, the fact that we are seeing more influencers out there with their kids and collaborating with brands to try and either get, toys or other things, do you think that that sort of speaks to either our society or where we are right now in terms of, hey, if I want my kid to be dressed in some of the nice stuff, maybe I'll, make a partnership with some sort of brand? Oh, yeah.
It's all part of the gig economy. And this is just one of the unintended consequences of social media and high inflation and high rent, and people's salaries aren't going up. And so suddenly you're going to turn around and you're going to take a puppy, you're going to take a baby, neither of which I have, by the way. I'd exploit both if I had an opportunity to. But no, you're going to see this because there's going to be a level of financial desperation. And the one concern I always have is you'll get a lot of people going, hey, wait a minute, look at that influencer. They made a ton of money. I will as well. I'd like to know what's the actual percentage of people that actually make decent coin off doing this versus everyone else who tries and fails. And by the way, one quick irony about the whole lawsuit thing, by the time you actually settle the lawsuit, probably all the money you made, with your kid, promoting some sort of diaper, all that money's already going to be spent on legal fees. So once again, the winner in all this, the lawyers.
Giselle, last word to you.
Agreed. Lawyers win every time.
Yeah.
So if you want to be litigious, don't expect you're probably going to come out on top.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And for all those who have a puppy or child to lend Matt, because it seems like he wants one to try and exploit, or
rent.
I'm kidding.
Rent, not full-time. Rent, okay? I'm a professional uncle. I like naps. Really do.
Uncle
I will rent
benefits,
you mine. She's very expensive.
Oh,
Look at this. Look at what we've started here. Okay, I think it's time for a commercial break. Before that, don't forget, you can continue this debate. We always do it on our Twitter handle, also known as X. It's @CTV The Debate. Head there, leave a comment, or